Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot. I assume Tom.
Wait, we get to talk about Beezel today.
Yes.
You know, congratulations on this film. Dread has made everyone wear adult diapers to the theater. So we thank you guys for that and putting Depends stock to skyrocket.
We're happy to help.
Anything for diaper sales.
Yeah. Especially the adult ones. No, we have yet another horror film in.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh no, he must have crashed.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no, he's back.
It's back, yeah.
All right.
So
It
weird.
dropped for
All
some
good?
reason. I'm here.
Okay, sweet. I'll go off camera again. We're still recording.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you to everyone for making Beezel the reason that we do not go back to New England ever or have a desire to visit.
Oh, it's wonderful there. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. No, thank you. I'll stay on the West Coast over here where it's nice and sunny. We had one heat wave that lasted, for about a week and a half, and now it's normal temperatures again. What is it about New England that makes it the perfect spot for a horror film? Obviously, the Salem witch trials, but what else besides that is like, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, we have to torture all types of human beings here.
I think it's the isolation. When I touch down in LA, there's light everywhere. But even New York or any big city, there's just light everywhere. When I touch down at Bradley International Airport in Connecticut and I'm driving to Western Massachusetts to go to my childhood home, it is nothing but pitch blackness. And it's a little bit of a shock, honestly, coming from a big city. And it's just scary. I mean, there's nothing scarier than acres and acres, miles and miles of woods and darkness, especially in the winter when everything is also silent and you hear nothing but snowstorms and wind.
Yeah.
It's very, very eerie. Of course, we're lucky that I grew up in this house in Massachusetts, and so we had a shooting location. It just kind of worked out magically.
So you've been haunted your entire life there?
Since I was 6.
All right. Nicholas, take us through the character of Lucas and how this all came about for you.
Well, yeah, so the character of Lucas has been really, really interesting to me because when I read the script, I really had opportunities to explore, in very, very different ways. And I talked to Aaron and Victoria about the script and about what I would try to do. And the great thing about this is that Aaron, as a director, really let me explore all of that, and I could create everything about, his past. Of course, we had the script, but I could create a past. I could create everything about him, what he likes, what he doesn't like, the relationship with Victoria's character, Nova, and a potential future that's obviously not going to happen for him. But this kind of complex character who had this sort of weird relationship with his family was also really, really interesting to explore, as an actor. And this is also a special feeling, coming back to your family house. I mean, I was sort of, caring about Aaron's story and trying to, get inspired by that when creating the character Lucas, even if it's a different story, obviously. But it was, as an actor, a good way to get inspired, And this character could really, he can really change what happens in his mind like quickly. He can be really impulsive, but at the same time he cares. There's a lot to say, to explore about him.
And Victoria, take us through the writing process. Obviously, the two of you worked on this together, and this isn't your first go around. What's it like when you sit there and you see the family home and you're like, you know what? You grew up here. This has been a part of your life since you were 6 years old. I know, Aaron, possessed witch in the basement.
It's like you were there at the writing table right with us. So we knew that we were going to shoot something. We really hoped we could shoot something at the house. And once Aaron's parents agreed, that we were off to the races. The first script was actually the segment that shows up in the middle about the nighttime nurse showing up at the house. And that was something that we had already been crafting a little bit before for different types of stories. And then we realized it could just work really, really well at this house. So that was easy. Like there was no pitching needed. And then the fun part of our writing process is that it really happens very naturally, where we each kind of captain either one entire script, whomever sees it the clearest and is really kind of the most, I wouldn't say passionate, but really the one who sees it the clearest, or we captain segments. So I captained the beginning segment with Mr. Weems' storyline, and he captained the segment where Nico and my character Nova we're there together. And I really love that process because we each, take the starting draft and off to the races with that. And then you get to just read this great story and try to polish it a little bit, like sculpt it a little bit together as a team. But I thought that the process was really fun. And once, he was on board from the jump. So it was easy being like, and this is where we're going to do it in the stairwell. That creepy stairwell. We're going to do that here.
It really helps knowing the house inside and out, every crawl space, every, nook and cranny. There are trapdoors up to the attic that we didn't even use. But it really helped inform the script, knowing every nook and cranny.
And you guys gathered
there's room for a sequel.
You guys gathered a great team, so it was really comfortable, as an actor. I'm sure about like Keelan's work or Michael, everybody was super happy. It's also a thing to create an environment for everybody working on set. And I think they did this really, really well.
And with not using the entire house in the first film, we have space for a sequel.
Exactly right. And the new owners, they heard all about Beezel, and they possibly already have their own experiences in the basement of the house. So who knows, maybe they'd be amenable to letting Beezel live on in the house for a sequel.
Apparently they now call it the murder house. The people that bought the house last year call it the murder house, and that's now how it's known in the neighborhood because of all the blood stains that we left behind on the floor of the basement and the floor in one of the bedrooms.
The wall, yeah.
The wall.
Yeah.
All right, so just leave a mess. Don't even clean up after yourselves. I see how it is.
Oh, we tried, but blood stains.
Real blood. Fake blood comes right out. So that's what we weren't prepared for.
Was there ever a moment in going back to the childhood home and you convincing your parents before they sold to let you use the property, and your mom goes, "Why don't you just make it a Hallmark Christmas movie instead and turn it into something joyous rather than, killing everybody and demon-possessed witches?"
I'm sure she would have preferred that we made a Hallmark Christmas movie. In fact, even when we finished the movie, I told my parents, like, you have to watch this. And my dad was all ready, all for it. My mom actually, and I took this as a compliment, said, "Honey, I love you, but I can't watch this movie, not as long as I'm still living there." And so she actually waited. She actually had to wait until she sold the house, moved. Only then would she watch the film in its entirety. And it still, I think, gave her nightmares. She told me that she had trouble sleeping later that night. I'm not even kidding.
That's better than any critic could ever give you as a review.
Sure. It's my mom, but at the same time, I also know that those were real feelings. She was like, "I don't know how you made this house so scary."
Yeah. When you come together for a film like this, what was the shoot schedule like? 28 days, 14 days? Did you have a couple of months? What about pickups? Like, how did that all look in the shooting schedule?
Say, if we added it all together, I want to say it was just 19 or 20 days.
It was about 19, 20 total.
And
split up over 2 parts.
Yeah. Going back to how we kind of shot it out of order, the first chunk was shot over 4 nights with just like one, a day off being the tail end or travel day, and then we went back. So there was that little gap in between, but yeah, it was about, I would say 19 or 20 in total.
Is there a scene that ended up on the cutting room floor Let's include Nicholas's character Lucas, that like you tortured him for so long is part of the half-day shoot, and you're like, nah, it doesn't work in the narrative. We can't put it in.
So there wasn't any scene that we shot that we cut completely. There were a couple of moments that we had to reshoot just because it didn't quite cut together the way that we intended. There is also a scene that we actually created in the edit.
That one's a cool one.
And that actually turned out to be one of my favorite scenes in the film. I don't want to spoil anything, but it is the moment when LeJohn's character in the very beginning is fast forwarding and rewinding the VHS camcorder.
I dig it. You know, now with everything that's going on, Halloween is obviously coming up. This film comes out just a month prior on September 20th. This begs the question, if you're making horror movies and this is your comfort zone, what scares you? And this is for all three of you.
For me, it has always been and will always be losing my mind. I mean, for me, you know, the psychological aspect of horror does it for me. You know, more so than a jump scare, more so than you know, a creepy monster. I think the idea of losing your mind and dissociating from reality is one of the most terrifying things, personally.
I'm pretty, I will avert away from kind of human to human horror in that subgenre. It's just not for me. It's like too mean. And I'm kind of like a scaredy cat in that way, but I find a lot of fun in the supernatural elements of it. So that's why most of my writing is always tipped in, you know, it feels a little bit magical, it feels a little bit out of this world. So that's where I live in my comfort zone of horror.
I would say the kind of the same thing as Aaron, for me, because you know I have this mind where I always try to create, you know, so it could be like a house, could be like anything where my mind's gonna try to find things, you know. So I would also say the jump scares, that this is for me in horror movies something big, especially because before, I mean, this is my first horror movie. So before I knew about it, but doing it, it's different. And as an actor, you know, when you really dig into it, it can be also kind of scary, you know, because then even when you go back to your house or your apartment, whatever, you're like your mind is still trying to be like, oh, what's there, you know, and yeah, that's also a scary thing to me.
You're all wrong. It's movie musicals. Those are terrifying. Just true.
Which one's the most terrifying?
Grease.
What makes
Grease is the scariest movie I've ever seen.
Tell
What's
me
that,
more.
Aaron?
What
Yeah.
makes
Tell us more.
A bunch of 40-year-olds playing high school kids, and then they get into this flying car at the end of the movie and just go off. No, it's terrifying. Just singing at random times. And then movie musicals, something we have to learn as Americans when it comes to movie musicals or stage musicals in general is from the Chinese. When it comes to Chinese ballet, how there's this artistic, like theatrical kung fu versus the weird dance fighting we have in the West. And it just creeps me out with the dance fighting because none of it makes sense.
Noted.
You must be terrified by Wicked then.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be the scariest movie of the year for me.
Yeah, you won't watch that.
I'll have to, but it's just like I'm going to be watching it through my fingers the whole time. Yeah. But with this one, Beezel, you know, you guys put, you know, shot up or are going to shoot up Depend stock after this. There's a lot of scary stuff going on here. And demon possession is not something I'm always a fan of watching, especially, you know, witches and whatever else.
Yeah.
No, we really tried to sort of include it all. It's why we even went with the story of Beezel the witch, because we could, you know, there's just so much that we can do with that, from possession to, you know, showing a creature to a little bit of gore, but not too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was just so much that we could do with that.
Now, is Beezel based on a real legend up in New England, or is this something you made up entirely yourselves?
She is the creation that was summoned within us. Let's put it that way. After being in the house and experiencing New England, this is the story that just came out of us. So
Well, the name comes from Beelzebub.
name will come from Beelzebub, and
And
yeah.
of course, we are very close to Salem, Massachusetts, and we did a lot of research into the burning of witches in Salem. And yeah, sort of created a backstory for Beezel that you might see in the sequel.
That's what we're looking forward to, and that's what we want to hear. What's the most exciting thing about the reaction that you've received, whether it's been from press or early fan screenings?
Most exciting thing.
I think like the unpredictable nature of the movie. You know, we wanted to create something that when people watch, they have no idea where it's going. I want 20 minutes in for something to happen where you're like, what on earth am I watching? That is what I want. And so far, that is the feedback that we've gotten.
I laugh because my mind immediately went to a very particular scene that I'm in. It's during a dream sequence towards the end, and my character does something. Something is removed. These are the spoilers, I mean, the little hints that I'm giving. And I'm just thinking about my close family and friends watching it and what their reactions will be. They haven't seen it yet, so there we go.
And Nicholas, what about yourself? Give us the French perspective.
About what? About what scares me the most, you mean?
Well, no, about the reaction that you've heard so far, whether it's been from critics or other pre-screening fan moments.
Well, from what I've seen or heard, it's most of the time it's the fact that the story is in three. People were like, "Oh, this is very interesting." That there's like three parts of it. That's what I read, and yeah, I also heard a lot of good things about our part, Nova and Lucas, and which I agree, and I also really like the Bob and what's his name again, Lee John.
Yeah, like John, yeah.
Part, yeah, no, so the whole movie is great, but these part specifically were really interesting, about what I imagined in my mind before the shooting.
I was pleased with Nico's reaction when we first showed him the film. I mean, he was watching his own self on screen, just like this. I mean, I remember Nico, you were terrified watching your own self.
Yeah.
You know,
straight from the beginning. Straight from the beginning.
And I saw you jump several times.
Oh yeah,
mission accomplished.
You guys did something right if the guy who knows what's coming in the scene is jumping already.
Sure. I mean, yeah, things change in the edit, so just because you were on set shooting something does not mean you know when it's actually going to happen in the final product.
Yeah, no, it's very different from shooting to the movie. Yeah.
Listen, folks, we've come to the end of our allotted time, unfortunately, but I want to thank Aaron Victoria Fratkin and Nicholas Robin talking today about Beezel, which is in limited release on September 20th and comes to digital September 24th. Where can we find everybody on social media if we want to connect with you and remind you how much you scared the hell out of us at the end of the month?
For future scares, definitely check us out online at Social House Film. That's where we post all of our new work.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
And YouTube. And you can find me on Instagram. Yeah.
Under
Nico Robin _off.
Perfect.
Nico
Thank
Robin.
you so much, everyone. I really appreciate your time today. Congratulations on the film coming from Epic Pictures under the Dread brand. Whew. It's going to be an intense Halloween season. We're kicking it off with you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to meet
Thank you
you.
so much.